Hello and welcome to the Mal and Johnny Show. Today I'm talking to Johnny Tudor about his big break, Opportunity Knocks.
And here's your host, Hughie Green.
Well, Johnny, here we are again then, and I thought it might be nice to talk about, the big breaks people have in their careers. And for you, you've done a lot of work in the clubs and doing your apprenticeship. Opportunity Knocks, a big part of your life. How did you come to be on the programme?
Well, it was strange. My father knew somebody he'd worked with called Eddie Espinosa, who had a ballet school in London. And he'd done a summer season with him in the past. So he rang him up. He said, "Can you do anything for the boy?" So he said, "Well, I can get him on Knocks, or I can get him an audition anyway," because a friend of his was a lady called Doris Barry. Now, Doris Barry was the associate producer, but her sister was Alicia Markova, the famous ballet dancer. Oh. I mean, and it was Alice Marks, really, see, but that's what they called her.
Markova.
So anyway, Doris was a beautiful lady. Anyway, I did an audition for her in London, in Dineley Studios. And that was a funny audition because there was a sign on the wall, no tap dancing, because it would make a lot of noise and people would, complain. So I thought, well, I'm going to have to do it because that's my act. So I sang and halfway through the tap dance, a big bell went off. Deafening bell to stop me doing it. A bit like those things you used to have in the clubs when you were over the decibels. You remember those things?
Oh, I went to Rob Brydon's wedding once, and it was in a hotel near London, and it was the worst night of my life. Yeah. It was great because there were so many famous people there who wanted to come up and sing, but all the way through, I'm looking at the light, because if the light stayed on for 3 seconds, the power went off to the stage. That's the type of thing, isn't it?
I know, it's the same kind of thing. She said, "Hugh, we'll have to see you, because I'm sure he'd like your kind of stuff." Mm-hmm. So she said, "Where are you next couple of weeks?" I said, "Well, I'm doing the clubs and so on." She said, "Well, there's an audition going in Liverpool." I said, "Well, I'll be in Liverpool." I said, I'm doing the Broadway club. She said, "Well, okay, can you get down to the Jacobs Biscuit Factory where they're doing the auditions in the club?" I said, "Yeah." So off I went to the Biscuit Factory. And he was there with his team, and they sat in the front. And it was just like any old workman's club, you know what I mean? There were tables down the middle, and there was a lady on the piano. She was going to accompany everybody. I had my old man with me just in case. So anyway, the first one goes on is a bloke. He goes on, he's on a grey suit and grey shoes. Okay. And Hughie sees him. He goes, "Hello, Norman." He said, "Go on then, born free." He obviously turned up every time he had an audition. And he knew what he was going to sing. Anyway, he sang and he let him go right through it because he was like that, Hughie Green. He wouldn't cut you off and go, "That's enough." He'd let you do your bit. Anyway, so this fella Norman sang Born Free. And then a little old lady got up in a dance frock and sang Nobody Loves a Fairy When She's 40.
Which is true.
Yeah. So anyway, then another guy got up and he's doing Tom Jones, he's doing Delilah, right? And the middle bit of Delilah where the band goes, dang, da, 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 dang, 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 the band break in the middle. And Tom goes, "Yeah," right? This kid goes, "Yes." And the woman goes, "Plonk, plonk, 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 plonk." And then it was my turn, right? So up I get, my old man takes over the piano, I do my song and dance. Anyway, the PA came straight up, said, "He wants to see you afterwards." Anyway, that's how I got the job. Yeah.
And it was enormous. I mean, we've in recent years we've had X Factor and Britain's Got Talent and all of that, and they have quite big crowds. 8-10 million.
Oh, this was 17 million. This was
every Monday night, wasn't it?
I think it was a Monday. Yeah, Monday it was 17. Yeah. We did it in Thames Television at Teddington Lock. We did it. Mm-hmm. And they were doing lots of stuff there. I think the Benny Hill show was going on up there. There were loads of stuff. Bob Sharple's orchestra, beautiful big orchestra. We had the works, He gave you the works.
Okay, so the build-up. So you're on the show. It's a big break.
Yeah.
What are your feelings? Have you got the music? Do they do the music for you? All those type of things?
Yeah, well, I had music of my own, but obviously like an 8-piece band or something. Anyway, this is like a 30-piece band. So I had to send my parts up and they reorchestrated them, see? So I did my song and dance bit and my Frankie Vaughan impression and so on and so forth. And anyway, what happened was, at the time, I was working Hodges Menswear, Port Talbot. And all the girls in the factory in where was it? Down by Swansea, somewhere the big factory was. Forest Park.
Forest Park, yes.
All the girls in the factory all voted for me.
All right, so take me through your day. You know you're going to be Opportunity Knocks. You've got your music's gone. Bob Sharples is arranging it. What time do you have to get to the studio? And when do you meet Hughie?
Oh, you meet him straight away. I mean, I forget what, we probably turned up about 10 o'clock in the morning for rehearsals and so on. And what did Hughie say to Bob Sharples? Hello, Bob, still wagging it? And he'd obviously done great arrangements, and all the top session boys were in the band. So you rehearse with the band, and then you're kicking about then until the actual rehearsal. But Hughie was one of these guys. He was very, very good to the pros. He made you feel at ease, you know. You
do the show. It goes out live. There are 17 million people.
I know.
Phone calls. You know, what are people's reaction to you? Then that night, the next day, when you go back home to work in Hodges.
17 million people in the country have seen you, okay? So I think I'd left Hodges by now, and I was doing some gig up in Manchester, and I stopped for some petrol. And the woman says, "Are you him?" I said, "What?" "Are you him? What were on telly last night?" I said, "Yeah, I was on telly last night." You had kids running down the street after you saying, you were Opportunity Knocks and singing the song. It was huge. It was such a massive show,
Yeah, and the clapometer. So you're on the night itself. Everybody does their act. Do you remember who was on with you the night you won? Well, what sort of things?
Yeah, let me think. No, there was a girl called Dee Eldridge who joined a group afterwards. Oh, God, I can't even remember. It's 1969, mate. It's 50 years ago. There were 5 of us, anyhow.
So you do your act. It gets to the end of it. There's the adverts and everything. Yeah. And then they do the clapometer.
For the Zaporozhian Cossacks, and if you can't spell it, just put down dancers and we'll know exactly who you mean.
And then the one with the highest gets the highest clap. But that doesn't mean a thing, because it's all up to you, friends out there. You've got to vote. Okay? and it's all down to the postcards that come in the end,
Coming back for the second week, so you knew what you were doing. What was Hughie like to you the second week? Because obviously, the better that you do, the better the show does. If you've got a record deal or something's happening, it's all good publicity for everybody.
Well, that's it. Well, the first thing he said was, "What's happened, old son, since last week?" And I said, "Well, I've got a recording contract." He said, "Really? What's the name of the record?" I told him the name of the record, "Seal a Million Kisses," or whatever it was at the time. And at the end, he said, "Get all the plugs in." He wanted, as you say, to be a success because it reflected well on the programme, didn't it?
What was Hughie like? Obviously, he comes across... It's funny now, because I've watched quite a lot of old Opportunity Knocks auditions, just getting ready for this.
Yeah.
And there's a certain smarmy charm about him that probably wouldn't go down terribly well now. But he meant it most sincerely, folks. I mean it most sincerely.
Folks.
So, from all of us here tonight to all of you at home, take care, good night, and thank you.
I mean, most sincerely, friends. I had to do that so the impersonators had something to hang on to.
They all used to do impressions of him, didn't they?
Yeah. I mean, what was he like when he
was a fantastic, he was a weird character, but when you think he had such a funny career, he was a great pilot, and in the war, he was taking planes across to Canada from England or vice versa, like transporting planes. He was a fantastic pilot. And he also, when he was 15, he had his own orchestra. So he'd gone right through a lot of careers and so on. Anyway.
It reminds me of my latest picture. It's only a little, but it means a lot. You follow me, boys? You follow me? You follow me?
I tell you who else was on the All Winners was the Muscle Man. What was his name? Tony Holland. Doing all this. That's right. And Frank Carson's on the All Winners. He's going, "I'm going to win this." I said, "This is the All Winners, Frank." So I thought that would be the end of the sports. That was it. I'd won, and I was on the All Winners, and I didn't win any other. And then about a couple of months later, I got another phone call from Doris Barry. We're doing a special, John, she said, and they've asked for you to audition for these people from Belgium. I said, what is it? Well, we're doing a big song festival in Knokke-le-Zoek. We've got a link up because of the name Knokke looked like knock. 5 or 6 singers all got on this program. Then everybody's got to vote again, see? But the funniest thing was I saw Arvon Haynes Davis. You remember Arvon Haynes Davis?
Yes, lovely Arvon.
Well, I knew him, see, and he was the continuity that night before I went on. And he went, ladies and gentlemen, don't forget, there's a Welsh boy on tonight, see? And I'm sure it helped. Anyway, I flew it. So that was it. And off I went then to Belgium to do the song festival with Julie Rogers and Elaine Delmar.
Elaine Delmar. I was looking at the results, you know, because Julio Iglesias had done it, Engelbert Humperdinck had done it.
It was Italy, Spain, France, England, and Belgium. That was, well, it said England to start with, and it was a bit of a hoo-ha, because they should have said Britain, see? Yeah. Because the only English person on it was Julie Rogers. The rest of us all, I was Welsh. Elaine Delmar was Caribbean descent. There was a bloke in it called Leland, she was Irish, and the other girl was Scottish. So she was... Anyway, they looked up the old contract, and they found that we were, you know, it should have been British team. But I used to do this little thing with a bowler hat, you know, and of course it caught the attention of the press. So the next day, it was in all the foreign press. I don't know what it was in French. The man with the chapeau.
Yeah. Was this the first time you'd sort of been away to go on an entertainment, or have you done cruises and things by that stage?
I'd done the American bases in Germany. No, well, that's an experience. That's an experience, because if you did the officers' clubs, it was easy. Mm-hmm. If you did the enlisted men, it was tough. They didn't want to be enlisted in the first place. No. I went to one club, and it was nicknamed the Snake Pit, right? Because it was segregated. There was blacks one side and whites the other, wow. And they didn't like each other, and they were checking Coca-Cola cans, and oh my God, and the band was on stage, had all this chicken wire over. I said, what's that for? So they don't hit the band with the Coca-Cola cans. I mean, it was really tough. Yeah. Having said that, there were some great experiences. I worked with a band. There was a woman, an all-girl band called Ivy Benson. And they were all girls, and there was I think it was a 10 or 12 piece, and could they read? My God, they could read at first, at sight, bang, straight in. And they were really great. Then other nights, you just have a piano and the drums or something, you know, depending where you were.
I went out there with a band once, and we were looking for the stage. I mean, the guys there are probably enlisted by mistake. They were enormous, and they were all eating ribs. I think they were previous members of their team, and stuff like that. And then we said, "Where's the stage?" And they said, "It's over there." It was a tank transporter. They brought a tank because it was outdoors in the middle of summer, so we were playing on the back of this tank. And then at the end they say, "Now then, perhaps we could all sing together, hold hands, and sing 'May the Circle Be Unbroken.'" Well, it's a big song in America. We'd never heard it. That's right. But you make do, Johnny. You make do on these.
Do you know what? There's a lovely story that Val Doonigan used to tell. He used to be in a group. I think it was, what was the group called? And he was in a 4-part harmony group. Mm-hmm. And he was doing the same thing. He was doing Wiesbaden, where I was, in the German. And he goes into this one club, he said, and they had 2 enormous television sets on the stage showing Amos and Andy shows, right? And he said, put the gear up. He said, you have to move the television or turn the tellies off. So we can't do that. He said, it'll be a riot. I said, well, what am I going to do? He said, well, you'll have to sing with the... He said, he said, well, sir, you have to sing with the microphone off. I said, well, that's a bit ridiculous. He said, they won't hear us. He said, well, you either sing or you don't get paid. He said he did the whole show, the group, singing with the mics off, with Amos and Andy going on. I mean, you know, people in like, well, as you say, the public wouldn't believe things like that happen.
No. So you got to knock. I mean, meeting all those different, nationalities, because they were all the best of their nation, weren't they?
Big stars, some of them, yeah.
What was it like? A nice hotel, that sort of thing?
Oh, yeah, they put us in a beautiful hotel, and we did it in a huge casino in Belgium. It's a massive place. I wanted to sing the song I just recorded, right? Mm-hmm.
Only you could make me cry a night of tears, steal a million burning kisses, set my heart on fire. While I hold you in my arms, I know that he's waiting, and soon
They didn't want me to do that. They wanted me to do Delilah, because I'd done Delilah, which was huge at the time, because Tom had just got in a charge with it. And I had an actual photocopy of his arrangement, because my record producer knew it. We got it, right? So I got the exact show, and we had this huge band. So I said, well, I don't want to sing my record. I said, back to London, there was a huge piece in the Daily Mirror. Don Short did a huge write-up about it. Johnny sees it pays to be frank. That was a catchphrase, because I looked like Frankie Vaughan. Yeah. And he does a whole thing about me sticking to my guns and singing this song, Wow. But thinking about it, Hughie Green said to me, listen, John, people listening to a song for the first time, it doesn't register. He said, I remember, he said, Gracie Fields going on and singing Sally for the first time, and nobody budged, But you see, they like stuff they know. If you do Delilah, they tear the roof off. I said, well, I've already done it once. Anyway, that was by the by. I sang my record, and that was it. Yeah. That's one thing about our game, isn't it? You do get those perks. Sometimes you're in a club that's not very good, and you got nowhere to change, only the toilet. And other times you're in a fabulous place in a big hotel. It's like, there's no in between, is there?
I remember going on tour with Max for the first time. We went to Seoul in Korea. We couldn't believe that we had toilets with telephones. All the band were in different rooms, phoning each other from the bathrooms. You won't believe it.
Yeah, they do that. Well, funny enough, Asia's like that. I mean, I did a thing in Hong Kong. What did I do? The Peninsula Hotel, same thing.
Oh, wow.
There was phones in the toilet, in the bathroom,
Yeah, I mean, when you go to a place like that, I mean, we talked about some of the Welsh artists, people like Brian and Ronnie, who were enormous in Wales, but found it difficult maybe to travel outside of Wales because the humour was so much associated with our culture. But
that's right.
But for you, going to somewhere like I must admit, I do it with Max Boyce. And obviously Max is very Welsh. He went to Hong Kong. People sort of knew about him and the expats. We went to Korea and South Korea, and they were all Americans. And you know what? He had to work hard, and he won because he was a good entertainer, and he was able to turn his stories. You go to somewhere like Hong Kong, and there are probably not that many big Johnny Tudor fans. So what do you do to prepare? Is your act just travels?
Yeah, because it was more Americanized, if you like. I was a big fan of Sammy Davis Jr. was my idol. I loved this bloke. He was such a fantastic entertainer. And I saw him twice at the Palladium and at the Talk of the Town. I was knocked out because he did everything. He sang, he danced, he did impressions. And I thought, well, that's the way to go, So I do all impressions of people that they would know. So I can, and obviously the singing and dancing stands up for itself.
A lot of people have followed in your footsteps. I mean, maybe the year before that you were on Opportunity Knocks. It was big for Mary Hopkin.
Yeah.
And then when it came back later on, people like Rosser and Davis.
Of course. Yes.
They won it. And so did somebody like Mike Doyle. I think Mike's...
when did Mike go on? Much later, was it?
Yeah, it was Bob Monkhouse's days.
Mike Doyle, act number 10. Communication Centre, please give us the national vote.
Yes, Bob. Mike Doyle has received 25,741 votes.
I think we have a leader.
Well, lovely to speak to you. And all right, well, should we do it again next week?
Yeah, every week. Why not?
Well, it's goodbye from him.
And it's goodbye from him.